welcome to the Town of Greenwich Planning and Zoning Commission meeting being held virtually on Tuesday, March 25th. Before we start, a couple of announcements. First of all, on April 6th, the women on the commission are going to be participating in a Greenwich Girl Scouts League of Women Voters event, Women in Government Expo. That's Sunday, April 6th from 2 to 4 p.m. in Town Hall. And it is a family-friendly event, and people get to have their passports stamped as they talk to the different representatives, female representatives from town government, and we tell them what we do. Mary Ann Knoll and I are trying to figure out what it is planning and zoning does. So if anybody has any good ideas on what we tell the Girl Scouts, it's like, I don't really know what to tell them.
Especially when most of the audience is going to be from pre-K through grade 5.
No, I don't know.
I
how we-
actually have a book called Ava Tanner, the City Planner, that's geared toward that audience in my office, so I'll give it to you.
Oh my God, that's fantastic. That's great. They asked us if we wanted to make an exhibit, and the three of us just went, a what?
Oh, colored, if we have anything colored maps, they love.
Okay, well, there you go. So if anybody knows of any colored maps of town, but then we have to explain what they are. And so there's, we've never done it before. I think it hasn't been done for very many years. And we didn't go last time. So I said, well, we're in government, we should go. So there we are, the three of us. Plus, go ahead.
We should definitely not take the legal book. The cases.
What's legally required, or the one from
No,
one from last week, one from last weekend.
No, no, that's a great yes. And so that was the first announcement. The second is that both Mr. Lowe and Mr. McRae are absent today. Mary Jenkins will be seated for Mr. Lowe, and Ann Knoll Jones will be seated for Mr. McRae. I did that randomly. It's just what it is. And then, as Patrick noted earlier, our first item, Burning Tree Country Club, has been postponed to a later meeting. That is for a final site plan and special permit to reconstruct the pool building, expand the pool deck, paddle tennis, the existing dining pavilions, etc. That has been postponed. And so with that, we open the public hearing now. Mr. Basili, are you good?
I'm here. I don't know how good I am, but I'm here.
You're great.
Okay, live free and prosper.
Can you
alrighty.
do it?
Yeah. They're a little crooked, my fingers. Okay. So, Mr. Tessie, this is Old Track Properties LLC for a final site plan and special permit to change the use of the current utility company office to a private early ed and care school with related outdoor activity space on a 3.75 acre property located at 16 Old Track Road in the GB zone. You listened to the briefing yesterday. When we were listening to the briefing, I think I mentioned that I felt like Ricky Ricardo. Mr. Tessie, you got a lot of explaining to do. So we will start out listening to you. Okay, I did make you laugh. We will start out listening to your summary, and then we will go forward. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. I am John Tessie. I represent the applicant, which is actually Old Track Properties, and also the tenant, the proposed tenant. Primrose Schools, as you know. And actually, it's kind of interesting that we're the first application right after your little preface there on your trip with the Girl Scouts. So maybe there's something tonight that'll be useful in your little seminar of the 5-year-olds. And in that regard, Matt Taylor is also here. I see he's elevated, which is great. Matt spoke is the Senior Development Project Manager for Primrose throughout the country. He actually spoke at the pre-application. Some of you may or may not remember, which was about 6 months ago. And then also John Canning, which you would expect, whom you expect would be here. He's our traffic consultant. We did all speak earlier today on the various points raised by the commission members, particularly as to traffic and as to parking. I noted also that there were comments from the sewer director that you discussed. In that regard, I would like to point out that the issues raised were set out in the director's memo to you as issues to be addressed after zoning permit. Or prior to zoning permit, I apologize, and not prior to zoning approval. Again, that was in the memo. We also discussed the conservation director's comments regarding the outdoor play area. In regards, well, to the project itself, as you described, there's a Primrose School, and we're dealing with private early education in care from kindergarten, infants through kindergarten, got it out. The school is designed in a way where parents bring their children into the school. So it's not a drop-off per se, but they bring them in, that Matt can expand upon. The site of the Primrose School is the former CNG facility that was at the location for, I think, 30 years or so, maybe more. With regard to parking, specifically starting out with that, CNG parking was isolated basically from the parking management plan. I know you referred to that, or Patrick did during the discussion. There was a parking management plan, but these spaces, the 43 spaces, were not part of the overall plan per se, because they were dedicated and remain dedicated spaces. And those are the spaces that Primrose is going to, those areas, what Primrose is using for its outdoor parking and activity. So the idea here is that that will be isolated, that the parking for Primrose, both for employees and for the drop-off purposes, would be within that exclusive area. That space could be available during the weekends for the residents and for Equinox, but not during
And
the
how many-
weekdays.
Okay, so say that again. You're gonna have how many spaces available to Primrose on the weekdays, and you will show that on a plan of what is set aside in total for Primrose? The drop-off area of 8 spaces, I believe it is, and then the rest of the parking and exactly where that parking is gonna be and how it's gonna be signed. You're gonna show us that, right? How many spaces is that gonna be?
Yes, well, I don't know if Patrick can pull up the.
Oh, we couldn't find it.
yeah.
What we were looking for,
It's
well, we
on,
were-
I can, well, pictures worth 1,000 words, so I thought since.
okay, I couldn't
couldn't
find it in the
find it.
material. So Patrick, if you have it, exactly where the parking allocated to the school is gonna be. And you said it's
Yes.
still that it's gone to 140 kids. It was less when you originally came to us with the pre-app. I couldn't remember how much.
I didn't, well, I don't believe the number has changed, but Matt could
Okay.
answer that.
Okay, before you do that, but before you
Yes.
do that, there was something else you said that I was puzzled at.
Okay.
You, on the sewer division comments, you said that the sewer department wanted the proposed, the flows after zoning approval.
Yeah, that's on the
No.
second page. It's on the
No.
second page of the memo.
No,
Well, look at the second page of the memo.
no, it says once, no, the second said, the prior to obtaining, it only says prior to obtaining the P and Z approval, that you've got to acknowledge it.
Yes, which we
Yes,
have.
but before that, if you go back up and it says comments to be addressed during P and Z phase is all the other fat part of his memo. And in that, he says that you need comments to be addressed during P and Z phase. And he says, in order for the sewer division to determine the potential impacts. So since that section is in the P and Z phase, you would have to do the proposed flows now, just to be clear.
This memo came from, which, I don't know
Feminella.
if Mr. DeAndrea, no, I just want to make a
So
point.
we do this all the time, Mr. Tessie, March
No, I
18th.
understand what you're saying. I
And-
don't know
and
if
we
Mr.
know how it
DeAndrea is here or
works.
not.
I know,
No, what
I'm sure Mr. DeAndrea is going to agree with me because we've had this discussion many times. When Mr. Feminella puts the paragraphs in during the P and Z review phase, he means it to be done during the P and Z review phase. We've covered this with him.
No, what I'm trying to say is this, try to make myself clear. Here, Mr. DeAndrea was the project for the assisted living facility.
Yes.
These notes come from the assisted facility, assisted facility memo that Mr. Feminella wrote. I thought those flows, and that's why I was asking if you were in attendance, but he may not
No,
be.
that says project summary, proposed change.
No, I
of
agree
use.
with you. I'm just making the point that when it refers to prior comments dated September 10th, 2021, they
Because
still
it's,
apply and need to be addressed. What I'm trying to say is,
well,
I
because it's
thought they
one lot.
were because they wouldn't have gotten through P and Z for the assist. This is where it's confusing. I haven't spoke to Mr. Feminella.
All right,
These
but
are
so
the
you
same
guys,
comments. You see what I'm saying? That they
yeah,
were,
let's not
I
waste
don't know whether
time.
they were addressed or not. That's why I thought
Okay.
Mr.
You're wasting,
DeAndrea, if they were here, could have qualified that. That's all I'm saying.
okay, you're wasting time, Mr. Tessie. The bottom line is, it says project is the private early education and care, and then it says comments to be addressed during P and Z phase, and that's when you do the flows, and that's the way Mr.
I
Feminella
understand
rolls.
that.
Okay,
I'm not trying to waste anybody's time. Mr. DeAndrea is not here. I'm not going to beat it to death. I thought they
Okey-dokey.
were accomplished in connection with the assisted living facility down the street. That's all.
Mhm.
But he'll clarify what he's done.
All righty. All
Okay.
right. Okay, so now we go to, you're showing us the parking. I'm sorry, Patrick. Okay. So, we are looking at the buildings and you are going to say how much of the parking is set aside.
Right.
Specifically,
It's all the parking, yes. Basically, you see the line of the building, which is on the east side of the building. I don't know why I'm using my cursor. It's kind of stupid. You can't see it. But the parking that is assigned to the Primrose is all behind the building.
all right. And that is how many, and you never say that anywhere. So how many spaces do you have there?
I can't.
49,
Okay.
49, 48, 48.
Okay. And
Thank you.
so those
Okay.
48 spaces include the drop-off ones, or the drop-off ones are the ones over on the right closer to the side of the building?
They included.
Okay, so those drop-off spaces, okay, so Mr. Canning, what we want is the spaces that are for this use to be numbered. The drop-off area, so the area where you're going to do the drop-off and pickup, the 8 spaces you're allocating for that, and for you to show how you're going to do the drop-off and pickup. I believe that was what the commission was saying yesterday. Is everybody on board with that on the commission? Did I get it right? All right.
Yes.
Okay, so show us how it's going to flow. And you know how it is, and Mr. Canning knows this backwards and forwards, obviously, after a career with this, but show us that how the drop-off is going to be affected at the door safely. Mary, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, particularly with the drop off, my concern would be queuing, because if you have 8 spaces set aside, you have 140 cars. You got to figure out how much space you're going to allocate for people who are waiting to drop their children off. And we've had this in other
There you go.
situations, and the queuing is the issue. I don't mean to tell you what to do,
Absolutely.
Sister Canning.
Okay, but Mr. Taylor will also be addressing that.
Okay, so how it's gonna queue where the kids, so Mr. Taylor's got expertise in this. He knows how to do this, but we need to see it. So how it's gonna queue, where the kid's gonna get out, how we're gonna know that the kid is gonna be safe getting to the door, where the car is gonna then spin around and get back out without interfering with the rest, and how wide that area is in total. And so how the drop off is going to go in a flow. And to Mary's point, if you've got 8 spaces, what's that? You can queue 2 cars at a time. They're going to be looping through the rest of the Equinox parking, right? And they're going to be, from my math, I think they're going to be blocking the spaces that you're allocating for the staff parking.
So, Madam Chair, yes, I understand you'd like to see a plan, sort of an operational plan to show where the drop off will occur, how the vehicles will approach it, how many there will be at a time.
Yep.
Number of spaces and
And funniest thing is, that's what we told you in the pre-app too. And we
Okay.
didn't get that. So we were kind of sad and disappointed.
and I have to correct myself already with apologies. I forgot about the play area, so it's not 48, it's 29.
Okay, so if it's 29 and you have 25 staff members, again, so one of the things that's very confusing in the material you submitted to us, Mary can jump in because I think she said the same thing yesterday, and so did Mr. Wells. In one place you note that you have 45 spaces allocated. In another place you say 145, and never do you refer to the usage of what we understand to be 349, and I didn't count them, 349 spaces, what your usage is right now of the total spaces, what the peak demands are for those spaces at Equinox, at J Lofts, and the shared parking that you have for 33 Spring, how those are utilized, what the peak hours are for those, and how that's all going to work. That's not in anything that I could find in your material.
Understood.
Mary Jenkins.
Yeah, and I look back at the pre-app. I know the pre-app is not binding on us or on you, but I believe Mr. Taylor at that point said it's 7 to 10 minutes per pickup and drop off. So 8 spaces is going to hold you up for a significant period of time. I assume that the 8 spaces doesn't mean that you have 8 cars parked in a line and eight families going in, because then the person at the head of that, again, the sheer timing of this, and given the fact that Old Track is so busy, I'm just concerned that you're going to end up with people, parking on Old Track or otherwise struggling. We've had this with the schools, struggling to find somewhere to drop the kid off. And if it isn't exactly ideal, there are going to be a lot of unsafe alternatives. It's a matter of great concern. I'm sure Primrose is used to this, but this location is very awkward, and parking makes it more awkward.
So
We're
Commission
hoping-
Member Jenkins, just because I think it's important.
Yeah.
This is a daycare facility, which is very different from the operation of a school, because the school has a bell time and everybody shows up 15 minutes before the bell time and it's bedlam. But a daycare facility, I drop my child off when I have to be at work, and everybody has to start work at a different time. So it's not the same concentration. Your points are still valid, but I just want everybody to understand that it's
Well,
not a school scheduled sort
we
of operation.
appreciate you telling us that, because, it's nice to know, but here's the thing. Your other big uses on this lot have the same issue. People show up to Equinox whenever, but we know that there's peak hours at Equinox between, I think it's like 6 and 8 a.m. or something like that. It might be 7 and 9 a.m. That data is available. I think you'd be safe to use the pre-COVID data, although I understand work from home maybe have spread some of those hours. but when's the peak demand at Equinox? So we know there's a morning rush at Equinox, and we know that most people are getting to work at a similar time. There may be a broader band of hours, but show us how that's going to interface. And that's an issue, Mr. Canning, that I mean, it's almost treated as a standalone facility in what you guys submitted, and we'd like to see how the whole site's going to work together.
Madam Chair, if I might.
Yes, and then Mr. Wells, and then Mary again. Go ahead, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you so much. Just to move along the same point that Mr. Canning brought up, just a little background with Primrose, and we operate close to 560 schools across the country.
Cool.
So the last thing we want to do, obviously, is get into a situation where we create an unsafe environment for parents and kids. So I certainly appreciate Ms. Jenkins' concern and the board's concern. But what I will tell you from a pickup and drop off standpoint, and we study this a lot because, as you can imagine, you're not the only planning commission who would bring this up. So
Of course not.
I try to be as prepared as possible. Our pickup and drop off spans over about a 3-hour period in the morning from about 6:30 a.m. to about 9:30. And in the evening from about 3:30 or afternoon eating 3:30 in the afternoon to about 6:30. So the rough math, I think Ms. Jenkins brought this up, it's about 7 to 10 minutes for a parent to come, park their car, take their child, bring them into the school, sign them in, and leave. We have 144 students. I actually did the math again today using 9 spaces.
So it's 144, not 140?
It's a 144 based on the latest occupancy chart that I have. And that has been in flux. I do understand that. I think the 144 is, I believe, the final number. And a lot of that had to do with just how the interior of the building laid out for us. But what I want to do is just get into a very high level view of how the parking scenario works. All the parking spaces we would utilize for pickup and drop off are adjacent to the rear of the Equinox facility now. As you're looking at this site plan, there's handicap spaces flanked by regular parking spaces. We would utilize, the 9 non-handicap spaces for pickup and drop off. If you figure in an hour, one space can accommodate 6 pickup and drop off turn times. We end up with a gross number of about 160, available pickup and drop off times over a 3-hour period. We look at this a lot. I'm not concerned about queuing on our site. I do understand that the Equinox is very busy. I've been there. I've studied it. I get that Old Track Road is very busy. But I can tell you our on-site circulation is not going to be an issue for us for pickup and drop off.
Mr. Taylor, I really appreciate that you have this enormous expertise with the 300 schools that you guys operate and that you know a lot about what you do, but you have to be able to give us a complete submission that shows us. And since you've heard a lot of other planning and zoning commissions ask, I'm sure everybody is as insistent as we are that we'd love to just believe your expertise, but we'd like to see it illustrated. And that's what we're asking for. This
Absolutely.
application was missing in that. And it was particularly surprising because it was one of the main things that we said at the pre-app that we wanted to see that. So when it came in, we were surprised you hadn't. Okay, let me just turn it over while we've got a quick break. Let Mary and Arn Wells jump in. Madam Jenkins, if you would go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Taylor, I particularly appreciate the explanation, but to use the other explanation of why this is different from a school, are your parents instructed that they have a particular time? Because if everybody's running 45 minutes late, you've just blown the idea that they're going to come in on any sort of regular basis. At least with a school, everyone knows what the parameters are. Is the timing of the drop off and pickup set up in such a way so that you don't have 144 parents showing up at 7:30 on one day and nobody showing up the next?
I will tell you that the distribution works out relatively evenly, and as parents come in and enroll their children, I mean, it's the expectation is trying to understand when a parent may come and when a parent may go. Sure, people get held up. There's doctor's appointments. A child may be sick. There's a myriad of things that can happen. I understand that. But while, again, you're relying on me telling you just my expertise without backup, and I appreciate
Bingo.
that, and I know we need to back it up. But
Yep.
what I will tell you is that distribution works well, and it has not failed me in the 150 plus schools I've had approved around the country. So I'm not saying we can't back it up. We can. This is a challenging site in a number of ways. I do respect that. But I do think we can make it work safely for us and safe with the other folks utilizing the Equinox.
As you can imagine, we have to be comfortable that somehow the design of this building is going to enhance your ability to spread out the drop off and pickup.
Absolutely.
There is a 2 hour at the beginning of the day and a 2 hour at the end of the day where you're going to have, I presume everybody's full day on this. If you don't have a midday.
Not necessarily. Some parents want part-time care. The way we look at full occupancy is called the full-time equivalent, which would mean 2 children could actually make up 1 child.
Okay.
But
you answered my question before I asked it. That was going to be.
So I know where you're going with this. But the reality is you could have a parent drop off at noontime and pick up late in the day. You could have a parent drop off in the morning. There's times during the day outside of that pick up and drop off period where a parent could come and go as well, reducing the amount of trips, during peak hour as well. So it works both ways.
I'm just going to ask you one follow-up question on that, and then
Sure.
someone else speak. So it's 144 spaces, but do you have an ultimate number of enrollment? In other words, if you've got two equaling 1, is there an ultimate high enrollment that you would not exceed?
There is. The state licensing, the way we've designed
Thank you.
the space, and Connecticut actually has a very stringent square footage requirement per child. The way the younger age group kids actually run a much higher square footage ratio compared to other states, which is fine, but it's good in that it reduces what we're talking about. If I was developing this school in a different state, our occupancy would probably be another 20 children in that space. But our total occupancy of 144 would be a maximum licensed capacity for this school based on the age groups we've designed into the floor plan. So that's the maximum number. So no more than 144 kids could ever be there at one time. I will tell you that as a national average over 560 schools, we run about 85% occupied in total across the portfolio. And that's pretty typical because you find that there's different needs for different age groups at different times. So to have a school 100% occupied is very uncommon. I'm not saying this won't be, but it doesn't, they very seldom are fully occupied.
So your enrollment cap is 144 then?
Correct.
Madam Chair. So I just want to remind the commission, for Indian Field Road School, we had a lot of confusion on that, enrollment versus number of children in attendance.
At any one time, yes.
Yes, so, however the commission decides, just make sure you guys are clear as to what we're
Well,
doing.
how about you give us clear information? I know I'm kind of hammering the point right now, but that was what was missing, Mr. Canning. Mr. Wells, then Ms. Jones, then Mr. LaRoe.
Yeah, just to comment, Indian Field, as I recall, maybe similar age group, but I believe the parents don't get out of the car. I believe they just drive up and there's staff there to take them out. So it would seem more efficient than what you're proposing. And then separately, you mentioned, Mr. Taylor, even distribution. I wonder, do you track that? I know it's, I feel like it's even distribution, but do you actually track that? Say similar size school, 125 to 150, with 10-minute intervals. Is that a statistic that you all track and could share with us, maybe average for similar sized schools? So
Absolutely.
we're not
I-
relying on, hearsay.
Yeah, no, I mean the data is hard data. I mean, I didn't make that up.
No,
So
I didn't think you did, but just,
I can certainly pick a couple of examples. I can't tell you I can do it in Connecticut. This would actually be our first school in Connecticut. So, but I can certainly do it in surrounding markets, New Jersey, Massachusetts. But I have that data, and it's current and real time. Obviously, people come in electronically to check their children in and pick them up. So I can pick a couple of distribution schools that would make sense that are the same size. This is a smaller school as well than what we would typically develop, by about 30 or 40 occupants. So I'd have to do a little research to find a couple of smaller ones, or we just take a percentage of that data. But I'm happy to supply that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
Madam Jones and then Mr. LaRue.
I have a question to go back to the parking. You mentioned, so all of the parking that's dedicated for this is behind the Equinox building, but there's also the handicap parking is part of that parking that's back there. One of the site plans shows 3 spaces, but that handicap parking would actually be shared with the other aspect of the building, or it's just dedicated for you all?
I would have to defer to Mr. Canning on that. I would say that it's probably required for our space.
There's a requirement, a specific number of ADA spaces per total number of parking spaces provided. Actually, with the playground going in, we may end up losing a handicap space. I'll have to check the numbers. And they would be available for anybody who wanted to use that building, basically.
Okay, so Patrick, go ahead. Or unless Anno wasn't done, were you done?
No, I think so. The handicap spaces are available for anybody using the building, not just dedicated. Even if they're in that location, they're not just dedicated for Primrose.
The old natural gas building.
They are, mind you, most suitable for Primrose, because if you're mobility impaired, you don't want to have to walk all the way around the building from a handicap space.
Right. I just don't know exactly the setup for getting into the rest of the building. But it's just, thank you.
Okay, Patrick.
I think this just bodes to the fact that we need a diagram or something that shows the area that's intended to be dedicated to just the CNG. And apologies if I didn't recognize that CNG was not in the parking management plan from the prior applications. I think Mr. Taylor, you mentioned that a morning and afternoon child counts as 1 for the head count. Is that the same idea if there's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday attendance, or if you do that sort of thing? It's the peak head count at any one time during the week. Is that what your study is?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, the peak number is the 144 number.
Got it.
At any one time.
Got it. So that'll be the total head count of the building. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's the maximum occupancy of the building.
It's the maximum. It's the maximum student occupancy of the building.
Right. Which is
yeah. No,
at any one time. It's not the maximum number of families who may have children enrolled. Right.
No, but on the flip side, you could have a family with 2 children of similar age group that are attending at the same time, eliminating 1 trip. That happens quite a bit too. I mean, obviously, traffic counts don't take that into account in real time data, but that's a possibility that happens in most of our schools where a family will have more than 1 child attending.
Matt,
Okay.
In that regard, is there some percentage?
We tried this. No, we tried this on Indian Field, and they age out. They age out. You really can't predict it. I think that was the path we finally took. You don't really know. Maybe you have a percentage with all your schools, but we ended up not figuring that worked really well. Okay, so the parking, it's a parking evaluation, look at the whole site, look at the peak hours for the other uses. What is the overall demand? Because again, what we're hearing is there is huge demand for all that existing parking. Do you actually have those spaces available? Mr. Tessie, you know, we've done the rounds on the Equinox parking and the issues with the J-lofts going
Yep.
in a million times. I mean, I can't remember how many times it came before us. So again, we want to know that this works. That then takes us to the traffic. I would not like tonight to go into a deep analysis because you have the great comments from Beta and from DPW traffic that make the points and the concerns and about if you're going to do the light, you have to do the warrant. There's a lot of concern about that intersection really being D. We had the Mr. McRae, who's absent tonight, goes through those intersections twice a day, and he wanted to make sure we were all aware that it's very bad traffic post-COVID now through those intersections. As everybody has gone back, he said it's from the east and from the west, and everybody's going to Equinox. So you saw the comments you got from both Beta and traffic. The best thing would be to just ask you to respond to those and address those, how it's going to be handled. The next set of issues, which again, we'd like you to just address, is you're making an assumption that a great many of your teachers are going to be coming up, walking from the train station, and yet there's not safe pedestrian access. So how are we going to have safe pedestrian access, and how are you going to work that out? That's also I forget who makes the comment. It could be Beta, it could have been Patrick, but it's in the staff report. So there's a list of open questions right now that rather than ask you to try to, wing it on answers tonight, to actually document, because some of it you're going to have to do the legwork.
I don't think we're looking to wing anything. That means to interrupt you.
Yeah,
Just-
well, yes. Well, what I'm saying is, forget I said wing. Don't try to answer it tonight off the top of your head. We're looking for numbers and tables, numbers and tables in the analysis. The level D, level of service D surprised us. So again, but we saw Mary had checked when you did the counts. It seemed like it's accurate, and yet it was surprising. Did it capture all the peaks? Did it capture the peaks correctly?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
I think Mr. Canning should just be able to give you an overview. He's not.
But there's so much missing from what we got that I'm reluctant. Mary, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that, Mr. Cannon, with all due respect, there's so many issues about mitigation. I mean, it's not only Old Track and Ham Ave, it's the other 4 intersections that were covered. And Oak Ridge is literally it's not directly across the street, but it's as close to that intersection as Prospect is. I think understanding what can be done to handle the new volume going through that particular intersection, particularly if signalization is going to be used. I very much doubt, with all due respect, you're going to get another traffic light within 400 yards of Prospect Street. And I echo the absent Mr. McRae's comments. I mean, I'm on that street as well, at least once a day, never when Ham Ave school is active. But even during the day, on an ordinary day, there's a lot of volume that's a hill and it's a curve just above that intersection. I would like to see more detail about exactly how that's going to be handled, because it's already just, and your crash data tells you you've got issues there. There's a building on Edgewood now. They're a multi-family building right on the corner of Edgewood. And you've got other developments, perhaps more than half a mile from your location. But again, we need more substantial data. I think we understand what the issues are, and our past conversations with you, Mr. Canning, have been very helpful. But this one, there's just too many holes in the data for us to really analyze it at this point.
And Yeah, I mean, the point about treating OFP and Oak Ridge along with Old Track and Oldfield Point as one intersection as well. I see what they're getting at. It never would have occurred to me to do that. Also the number of developments. We were talking about that. You're missing two of the big developments. You'll have to look, Mr. Canning, and speak with Patrick about why those weren't relevant. Go ahead, Mr. Canning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to pass, which is what you suggested,
Yes,
but and I do appreciate the input. With regard to the developments, I just looked up the 2 traffic studies for Benedict Place, which will add a net increase of 7 trips up at Benedict Place. So we'll have 3
Yeah.
or 4 trips down here. So it's covered by the background traffic. And the Mason Street
Okay.
traffic study said replacing the car dealership with residential will reduce traffic. So I think we're kind of
yeah,
covered on that.
that's, I mean,
Uh,
it's kind of a weird thing because the Honda dealer's been closed, so it's reducing a non-existent, but we always argue that how frustrating that is for a commission.
That's true.
Okay, so,
But importantly, to Commissioner Jenkins' point,
yeah,
we analyze when we put a signal in, what we're going to do is not only improve conditions for Old Track Road, we're going to include in a separate phase the Oak Ridge intersection. So we'll improve conditions for all of the users of that street as well. So that's a public benefit, and the signal would be coordinated with the signal at Prospect. So basically you'd get a green light on Field Point when you get a green light on Prospect. Now I have to prove all of this out to you.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? But my point is,
Not to us. You have to prove that you have to do the warrant, and
Yes,
that's the DPW. Okay.
absolutely.
Because I don't even understand how the warrants work that clearly, but
If
I'm
if I might just respond to that, Madam Chair. There is backup at the Prospect light now.
Yep.
And it's significant. And in fact, part of the problem is that people making a right onto Prospect heading toward I-95, you can have 12 cars waiting for that light to change because
Yeah.
people are making lefts and rights onto that. I'm telling Mr. Canning something he knows probably better than I do, but I mean, it's already a problem, which
Yeah.
is why Mr. McRae and I are particularly concerned, because our experience has been, it's already a problem. So again, Mr. Canning knows that full well. My apologies, Mr. Canning. I don't mean to tell you your business.
No, that's fine. Thank you. Appreciate it.
okay. Anybody else?
I just want to raise 2 things because I don't know how much more we're going to talk about this tonight. And that is, Mr. Tessie, do you have an exemption for the energy narrative? I didn't see one. Are you planning to provide one?
I don't,
I assume you're completely redoing CNG building, putting in new HVAC, or maybe not. Maybe it just stays the same.
Mr. Molnar may have some comments on that. I believe he's in attendance.
I can address that to the
Go ahead.
like,
Thank you.
So the way our lease is structured, we are rehabbing the interior of the building, and all the mechanical systems are also being upgraded to meet current ASHRAE standards and current standards for childcare. So we'll meet the Connecticut energy standards without an issue, if that's the question.
Well, it's not, because you have to, or you don't get a building permit. So I'm just looking for a little more detail. Are you going to use fossil fuel? Is there any opportunity for renewables? Are you going to do any energy modeling? I mean, I assume you're paying your electricity and your gas costs, so presumably you have an interest in keeping those costs down.
Yeah, this building is a bit unique in that there are some shared utilities, Mr.
Okay.
Wells. So I don't have the benefit of being a separate building where I can actually separately meter things 100%.
Okay.
What I will tell you is we look for the highest efficiency products to put in the building. I'm assuming to be naturally gas-fired heat. which is typically what we would do. There'll be rooftop units to heat and cool the building. All the interior lighting will be LED and compliant. That's probably about as far as I can go in this building based on the way the utilities are structured.
Okay, thank you. Separate question. This was mentioned yesterday. Using artificial turf for your playground. You know, there are concerns about artificial turf because it doesn't stay together. You've got the fill. And here in Greenwich, we've been using, which Mr. Tessie's probably familiar with, what do we call it? Rubberized surface.
Pour in place product. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you
come
that
apart and, you know, you fall on it, you don't hurt yourself.
Sure. I'm familiar with both. I mean, I've been in the childcare development industry for about 25 years, so I've seen a lot of different products come and go. The product you referenced, the poured in place rubberized product, is very effective. It also, unfortunately, acts as quite a bit of a heat sink, sometimes depending on where it's used. We find a field turf, and we use a product that's developed by a company called Field Turf. It's a very high quality product. The ballast we use is a pure product. It's not recycled, which is where most of the issues typically come when it comes to field turf, fields that might have been installed a few years ago before people fully understood the hazards. Where it's a safe product, I can give any bit of data to the commission on that. But we find that turf is a much better scenario for our age group kids than the poured in place product, having used both.
And you've
Okay.
not found any replacement because that's the recommendation you're getting from our environmental people, that there must be something that's better. And they sent us a big, huge paper on that.
Yeah, I can give your commission or whoever, and again, I apologize, I did gloss over some of the report, but I did see that. I can tell you that I can defend our product 100% as to its safety and its compliance, and to the same degree as a poured in place product as well. But happy to have that discussion with the appropriate folks at the time.
Okay.
We can.
Well, it's now. It's the
direct.
appropriate time is now. So maybe what you could do is when you come back with all the other stuff, is if you can find any kind of study that says you found that because of the heat effect, anything that says, yes, even though there's all this data that they threw at us about it being a carcinogen, that here's the offset where it's better for the kids. But the concern that they raised was the carcinogens.
Absolutely, and that's what I took out of
Okay.
it, and that's directly related to the ballast that's used in the product, and I can prove that out without any issue. Madam Chair, I'll be
Okay.
sure to do that.
We can communicate with it's Conservation Director's office, so.
Not a
Okay.
problem.
Alrighty. Okay, so what I would say to you, I think we've given you everything. You heard us say it yesterday, and we'll see you when you come back. And we would continue this item.
Okay. Well,
If you can get to Feminella, it would be great as well.
yeah, I have to talk to Mr. DeAndrea to see where he left off with Mr. Fenella.
Yeah.
With the
And
other
then-
project.
Now, we didn't raise the ARC. I purposely didn't raise the ARC thing. My sense is, despite Mr. Taylor's confidence, we'd like to know that this works before we send you for someone to tell you whether it's pretty or not. Okay, we just,
Understood.
so I would like you to come back and just give us the logistical works, and it's not gonna be a mess at that. People complain about that set of intersections all the time. And as Mary pointed out in the briefing yesterday, it also has quite a bit of crash data. Was it 19 crashes, something like that? In the last 4 years, 13 and then some more that weren't at the intersection itself or something like that. So it's got quite a few crashes. I mean, but people do have crashes. So again, let us know. Mary, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, public comment, Madam Chair.
Yeah, I was going to forget that. Does anybody from the public wish to speak on this application? This is at the old Connecticut Natural Gas Facility, 16 Old Track Road, right by Equinox, to convert into a private early education and care school. Does anybody wish to speak about this application? Please raise your virtual hand. Nope. Nobody wants to speak. Okay. Thank you for the
Everybody's
reminder,
happy.
though. There's a lot of meetings tonight and this evening and this afternoon because the RTM has a meeting that was unanticipated. All right. Okay. So we will continue this application then.
Yes, thank you
Thank
for your
you.
time. everyone.
Thank
night.
you,
Have a good evening.
Mr. Taylor. Show us that your confidence is well warranted.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, board, for the time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, John.
Bye-bye.
Oh, that was good. Okay. And Mr. Cohen has his hand up. Okay, Mr. Cohen. All right. So our next application is INCT LLC for a final re-subdivision, lot line revision, and lot consolidation to revise the lot line between lot 1 and lot 8 of the Rocklands Lane subdivision to create a revised lot 1 and then to consolidate that with the property at 1 Indian Spring Road for a total new lot of 22.1426 acres. And the addresses are 0 Rockfields Lane, 0 Rockfields Lane, 1 Indian Spring, and 0 Indian Spring in the RA1. And with that, Mr. Cohen, go ahead.
Good evening, Bruce Cohen here, representing INCT LLC, family-owned company that owns a good deal of property off of Glenville Road in Greenwich. And we're here before you tonight for a determination that a proposed lot line revision and lot consolidation do not constitute a subdivision or require subdivision approval. I think it would be helpful if I could take you through a little of the history of this site and the surrounding sites owned by our client and put you in the into the picture. The first image is a photo or a depiction of the properties owned by INCT. Not all of this is are parts of the application tonight, or the application really just deals with the portion shown in blue, a small piece of the parcel shown in green. We've given you the rest of this just to indicate the total extent of the property owned by our client. The
Recording in progress.
The parcel shown in blue is it's an 11-acre tract which contains a wonderful old house where the family that controls the entity resides. And the purpose of the application is to bring into that blue piece a little piece of the green piece. We're showing you the yellow parcel, which was also acquired by INCT. The total acreage that's owned by our client is something like 130 acres. Because the commission expressed an interest during the pre-application, the piece to the left of the yellow parcel are the 54 acres purchased by Greenwich Academy from the Indian Spring Land Company. The next image shows the 11-acre parcel where the family house is located. That was created really by virtue of a lot split taking place in 2002, and INCT purchased the green portion in 2009. Interestingly enough, all of these parcels really were a part of the overall Indian Spring Land Company holdings that the Rockefeller family had held for over 100 years, I guess. And part of this effort is putting a large piece of it back together again. The next image will show you the piece that's outlined in green, which Stillman Rockefeller brought before this commission as a subdivision in 2004. It was approved as a subdivision. There are within this subdivision 9 lots and 5.8 acres of set aside open space, as well as an additional 3 acres of conservation easement land. The purpose of the application tonight is to will affect that portion of the Rockfield subdivision, which you see here, that's outlined in black, and I'll tell you how it's going to do that with the next image. And the next image is the proposed lot consolidation map and lot line revision map. And what it proposes is this. The blue piece of 11 acres would like to expand in size, really to achieve an additional level of privacy for the family by including what is now lots 8 and 9 in the Rockfield subdivision. Because an access strip leading from 8 and 9 and a pedestrian easement located on lot 8 are no longer needed in order to have access for 8 and 9 out to the Rockfield subdivision road. It's proposed that that access strip be incorporated into lot 1 of the Rockfield subdivision. So the effect of the application, which we have before you tonight, does 2 things. One, it's a modification of the lot line shown on the Rockfield Lane subdivision, by incorporating the small amount of land that's included within that access easement, bringing the total acreage of lot 8 from, lot 1 from 2.5 acres to 2.8 acres. And secondly, the incorporation of lots 8 and 9 into into number 1 Indian Spring Road, making it now a 22 acre site, whereas the original home site was 11 acres. So before you tonight are those 2 requests. You may recall that in the pre-application, there was also a site plan modification being requested to move an ice skating rink from number 1 Indian Spring Road, the 11-acre parcel, into the area shown now as lot 8 of the subdivision. That is no longer being requested. So tonight there is no site plan application. There is simply the lot line revision as shown here in yellow, and the lot consolidation as shown in blue.
A question for you, Mr. Cohen, just to clarify for me. I never really understood this thing between health and sewer. So it is going to be served by sewer when developed, by private sewer line.
When you say it, you're talking now about the balance of the Rockfield Lane subdivision.
No, I'm talking about what is before us now. You've submitted a sewer acknowledgement letter. So it is going to be served. What is before us now, the resulting lots, are they supposed to be sewer service? And Tracy, if you explained this to me yesterday and I walked away from the meeting and said, oh, I think I still don't understand that. So feel free to jump in and explain it, either one of you.
I'm sorry, Tracy.
My
Um,
understanding is the property is served by sewer now.
Okay,
There's just, I don't know if disagreement is the right word. There is some confusion as to whether it is a private sewer system or town maintained. Apparently, it is on this, if you look at the sewer benefit area map, the property is shown as being in the sewer system. The subdivision approval spoke to the property being served by public sewer. And the deeds to the properties actually reference sewer fees. So I'm not sure where the issue is with what sewer has or does not have in terms of records, but it's not for the commission to, get involved in.
Okay.
The sewer has asked for additional data and
okay,
information from deeds that the applicant already has, but
All right.
this is not involving any development, so there's nothing changing in terms of
got it.
how the wastewater is currently flowing on or off the property. It's
I'm a happy camper with where you
Okay.
said, you got me at hello, you got me at we don't have to get involved at this point. That was really all I wanted to hear because it was some trade-off between whether it was private sewer. So we don't need to worry. It's in the sewer benefit area. And when work is done, somebody else will figure it out.
Someone's gonna figure that all out. Yep.
All right, I'm good with that. I like those answers. Okay, I don't have any other questions for you, Mr. Cohen. Does anybody else? Okay, does anybody from the public wish to comment on this application at this time? Again, this is INCT LLC. It's Indian Spring and Rockfields Lane to basically rejigger the Rockfields Lane subdivision. Hope I gave that as a good explanation.
Rejiggering is good.
Rejiggering is good because I can't say the other R word. I've been forbidden. Okay, no comments from either the commission or the public. Does anybody object to closing this application at this time?
No.
This application is hereby closed. Our next application is Greenwich Country Club for a final site plan and special permit to construct 2 new padel courts with associated site improvements on an 148-acre property at 19 Dublin Road. Mr. Cohen, we had very few outstanding items. If you want to give us a summary.
Yes, I can do that quickly, Madam Chair. I'm here representing Greenwich Country Club, as you point out, in connection with the application for final site plan and special permit approval to build 2 padel courts on the north side of its 148-acre property. And the quickest way, I think, to take you through this is to have Tracy or Pat show a couple of images that we've done over. The first one shows the entire campus, and you'll note that it shows in blue on the right side of the image, which is the north side of the property, shown in blue where the padel courts will be located between an existing tennis court to its left and paddle tennis courts previously approved by the commission to its right. So it's right in between. It's about 127 feet away from the nearest property line, and it is located within a parcel formerly known as 25 Dublin Road, which the club acquired a couple of years ago and was, with the approval of the commission, consolidated into the overall campus. And as I'm sure you know, the main structures of the campus are located right in the middle of the property. The next image is a close-up. Let's see. Did that be squeezed down a little bit? To maybe. That's really squeezing down. That's pretty close. There you go. Almost a little further up. Okay, perfect. The bottom of the screen shows the location of the paddle tennis courts that I mentioned. The top part on the left of the screen is the existing tennis court, and it is proposed to locate the new two padel courts right between them. And the next image is a landscape study that shows how they'll be located. I believe the commission has seen the various department reports. I think one issue that had been open was that ARC had reviewed it and approved it subject to a number of landscape issues, which we've actually accommodated on this revised landscape plan, which differs a little bit from the original one that we filed, but intended to reflect the ARC's concerns. One had to do with the additional planting of the arborvitae shown on the left to the that does provide a little more screening to the club driveway, and also the idea of retaining as part of the construction team an arborist that is going to help us take care of saving as much of the existing trees as possible, and with particular attention to the lower left-hand corner of that enclosure, the walled enclosure, where we have what originally was shown as a 32-inch oak tree on remeasurement based upon the new definition of DBH. It's actually 26 inches as measured at that point. I think DPW has issued its report and has basically approved the drainage summary. And I don't think there were any other issues that were outstanding unless you have questions.
Mr. Yeski, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Cohn, I think we brought this up on the pre-app. I was wondering, we had asked if you had any more information about the noise level on the difference of these courts vis-a-vis paddleball or particularly pickleball, because we as a commission might be volunteering to take a look at the noise ordinance, maybe. And I think I asked if you had any more information. I'll ask again. You, along with a number of other clubs, keep quoting that this is quieter and nicer, but we haven't seen any data to that effect. Do you have anything? Can you find anything?
Well, as you know from our application, Mr. Yeski, we did submit the results of a phonometric measurement study, they call it, that indicates what the levels are expected to be in terms of deviation. We compared that against the distance of where this activity is going to be to our closest boundary line, and found that we were within the existing noise regulation. We do know that studies have shown that the noise level here is less than pickleball because of the nature of the ball and the surface. I'm not quite sure how it compares to tennis, but I think that in terms of this application, it will provide a sufficient level of noise attenuation through a couple of things. One is the fact that lights are going to be out at 10 o'clock, as the rest of this complex is required to do. And two, there's additional landscape screening between us and any nearby neighbor. And the fact that we're, as I mentioned before, 127 feet away from the closest property line, which is actually further away than some of the other nearby activities. So
No, I understand.
To answer your question, do I have a study that shows what level of each racket sport produces? No, I can't help you with.
Okay, well, that was the question. I understand you meet the noise ordinance, and that's very good, and you're further away, but I was hoping that maybe the manufacturer or someone who's planning this at Greenwich would have some more additional data. But if you don't, you don't. Thank you.
Okay, on the ARC comments, they had wanted you to add evergreens was the term they used
Mm-hmm.
along the driveway.
Those are
And
shown on this revised.
yeah, so
plan. Yeah.
you've gone to arborvitae,
Yes.
and I'd like just for staff to sign off on that, on the use of the arborvitae, because there's a lot of back and forth, as you know, from all this time with us.
Yeah, I should also point out, Ms. Alvin, that ARC wanted us to review this with Mr. Conti of the ARC, which we will do.
Okay, he is, from what I know, he will be okay with arborvitae. He sees arborvitae as a usable workhorse of a plant, of a planting. Patrick, Tracy, is that all right to have the final landscape plan be signed off by Mr. Conti as ARC has requested, or should we have Bianca do the final review?
Well, John Conti was actually chair of the ARC the night that this was before the ARC, and I happened to be there too for another reason. So, whichever you want to do, and Bianca was there, so all of us were there.
Okay, so we
And Jackie, we were all there.
all right, so we'll just say that the ARC something. Okay, we'll come up with language.
Well,
Okay.
the question is it a comment from the ARC that they would like to see it, or are you asking?
Yeah, in other words, could we just let Bianca handle it and she can call John and,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
would be, yes.
So we'll just, let's just say staff sign off, because Bianca's there. And we may not be as easy to get a hold of John when it's not a meeting and all that. The lighting is on a timer, which will be extinguished at 10 p.m.
That's right.
Okay. And you have complied with the lighting regulations?
Yes, we have.
Okay. And you're going to screen it, and I think that's going to help. I thought that was actually an excellent suggestion, that it be screened as you're coming up the driveway. All right. Does anybody else on the commission have questions? Mr. Yeski, you have your hand up.
Get down.
Oh, now it's back down. Anybody else have any questions on Greenwich Country Club? No. Does anybody from the public wish to speak about Greenwich Country Club and the Padel courts? I'm still waiting for that dissertation, Mr. Cohen. Nobody from the public wishes to speak. Okay, so with that, does anybody object to closing this application at this time? Therefore, this application is now closed. Thank you very much, Mr. Cohen.
Thank you.
Mr. Basili, you can go home now. No, wait, I'm not supposed to do it that way anymore. Commission, does anybody object to closing the public hearing at this time? We went to training school over the weekend. Does anybody object to closing the public hearing? Hearing no objection, the public hearing is hereby closed. See what we learned? All right, Mr. Basili, now you can leave.
Great. Just warmed up and now it's time to stop.
I know, but we're told the economy is fine.
Oh, yes, it's excellent.
All right,
Oh.
thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
And so now we go to the discussion items, and our first discussion item is Greenwich Country Club. And that is, I'm not seeing him.
Somebody from Sharp, Reno, and Warren should be. Oh, there's somebody.
Jerry, yeah, he came early to the meeting. Good for him. Now, see if you can finish moving Mr. Basili out. He's frozen on my screen.
Yeah, it's odd.
I'll try again.
I'm here.
All right.
Good evening.
Well, hello. Hello. So our next item is 5A. It's a discussion item, Greenwich Country Club, for a pre-application review for proposed additions to the clubhouse on an 148.2525 acre property at 19 Dublin Road. And with that, sir, how do you pronounce your last name?
Long U, Hupy.
Hupy. So Mr. Hupy, if you would go ahead.
Thank you. First, I should probably say I'm not Bruce Cohen, even though we share a hairstylist. I know that we were all for Bruce on this. And I've known Bruce for almost 40 years now. But I appreciate Madam Chair and committee members appreciate the opportunity to present this to you and look to your thoughts. If I may, if someone can bring up the images, or can I share? How does that work?
You can share.
I can
they
share?
have to share,
Oh.
but they have to decide if. We have applicants that don't like to share, so.
I just want to open real quick just to have this image in front of us because I think it's helpful to talk about our approach here. The club's got an amazing history in Greenwich, and we went back through the history books and looked at the original club that was there, which is the bottom left of this image. And then they've had some kind of devastating fires up there. So there's a subsequent club that came in after that, and then the current club. And one thing that we loved about the original buildings was this main building that addressed the golf holes, and then this 90-degree turn kind of support building, and that was prominent through those clubs. The current building, which is this image here, has a subsequent building, the Converse building, which is their fitness building, but it doesn't have the kind of the character and the tie to the existing building like the previous versions had. So in addressing the club's needs and working through this from a design standpoint, we are working to bring some more prominence to that central porch by adding the dormers up in here, and then this turn 90-degree addition support building, much more reminiscent of what the original structures were. Probably a couple things to address based on commentary that came in yesterday. It's great that you guys do those types of briefings. The membership is not increasing. The family grill, which is going to take the lower portion of this addition, currently exists on the ground floor of the existing building. And it is essentially being removed. Circulation is being adjusted from an interior hallway to an exterior hallway. And the current 275 square foot kitchen, which is woefully inadequate, is being increased to about 1,300 square feet at that lower level. So the grill is being moved. It's not additional. It's essentially in seating or dining capacity. It's an additional 200 square feet. So there's not some big increase in capacity for dining. I think the other space that we're adding on this is this small second floor addition off of the existing main kitchen, which is a break room for the staff, which currently doesn't exist. It sits over top of an existing generator and is really just a knuckle sticking off that gable end of the building there. Let's see what else. Energy narrative. There's actually the general contractor doing pre-con for the project is working on an entire energy audit for the whole property actually, but from our focus on the main clubhouse and all the connected pieces. And then we will, as the mechanical engineer that is on board, will be doing all the energy code compliance calculations for the building envelope, the equipment, and the lighting. What else can I tell you?
Last question, question for you. I think one of the main issues that we would want you to cover when you come back, and you don't have to do it now, is just as you change the size of the facilities for the members, if your parking will continue to be adequate, because at a recent event there, the parking was pretty chock-a-block with the existing facilities. So would you be able to accommodate overflow parking some other way? Because it's tough. I mean, once you get onto your campus, once people parked all along the driveway, where else would you go? So just address whether or not how the parking is sufficient would be the question. That is really the only issue I had yesterday. Does anybody else have any questions? No? Okay. Let me see if anybody from the public wishes to ask you anything. Does anybody from the public have any questions on the Greenwich Country Club expansion or wish to make any comments? Nope. Okay, so I believe from what we've seen in your pre-app material that the really our questions were membership change and how you will accommodate the expansion in your entertaining areas and event areas, and whether there will be enough on-site parking and how you're going to manage that. You currently have a valet program, which I believe for major events, which I believe you do, you would probably do anyway, may have been a condition of a prior approval. So will you, I assume you would be keeping that? Will you need to expand it? Whatever. That's my key question, because it was really, I walked a long way.
Yeah, it operates, the valet program operates in two different manners. If you were, as I have been to events there, I've been to events there where the event is the primary thing and you walk in the front door, and as you noted yesterday, you kind of have a circuitous route to get back to the banquet location.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing that they do is they actually move that valet pickup and drop off over to the doors, which go directly into that facility. So at times when there's an event and they don't want to disrupt members' typical member usage,
Okay.
they move that valet drop off right directly into the banquet facility. So they do adjust that based on what the event is.
So there's this weird, so there's parking way behind, but I
Down
couldn't
along
figure-
the, yeah, down behind the pool, down along the
Yeah.
edge of the golf
You've got-
course.
Yep, you got it. I didn't know how to describe that exactly. So here's my question. I couldn't figure out how to get back to where I had parked back there without looping all the way back to the front door and out the front. And it was pouring. And now I
Yeah.
realize that may be a special circumstance because I don't like to have valet parking. I don't like to valet, so I didn't want to bring my own potentially idiosyncratic situation to bear. But is there convenient access for the patrons of events to your overflow parking? That would be as you are growing this facility, that would be the way to ask it.
Yes, it actually does exist. And I've
Okay,
parked back
so
there myself.
just be ready to talk about it
okay.
when you come back and say, so we're growing this and we're growing that, and we're going to have the squash court over here and we're going to do this, and this is how we're going to accommodate events, and we've got all this overflow parking. That's
Okay.
all. So we don't want to hear it right now. I'm just saying that'll be the question, and how people are going to, as you say, shuttle back and forth, and how they quickly access wherever their car is or the valets.
Understood.
Okay. Anything that you want to ask us?
You know, I suppose it's more for me, and I don't know if this is the forum for, we haven't worked in Greenwich on a commercial building in a while, and it would be helpful to understand the path that we go through, and maybe this isn't the forum for that. Maybe that's better served as sitting down with someone in
Well,
with Patrick or
forum
something to
is,
talk
yep,
through.
it's sitting down with Patrick, because he will tell you, I think, Patrick, tell me if I'm wrong, but the key thing is to make sure you've touched base and gotten all the departmental reviews that are necessary for your zoning approval, because otherwise we'll keep kicking it down the road until you have the key ones. So you're not in the sewer benefit area, but because of your of what you're doing to your facilities, you're going to have two different sign-offs from the health department, one from the state and the other one from our local health department, because of the dining facility and the kitchen. Your drainage plan, I don't think you're going to get many questions from DPW about your traffic, because you're really just going to demonstrate that you can handle it on site, which is what we said to you. I would say to you that you're going to be key in, I don't think they're going to need to worry. They've already, you've already got a permit. Does that permit for the Padel courts from IWWA cover the expansion?
They
Patrick?
weren't tied together, at least from my knowledge.
Okay, so you're gonna
so
have
we-
to touch
We would have
base
to go
with
back in,
wetlands.
even though
Yeah.
I think we're outside of.
So Patrick and Tracy are great guides for this, and I should
Okay.
probably stop talking and Patrick has his hand up and let him talk.
So there is one question I'd have, and this is for the commission to give the advice on, is going to ARC, and would that happen before they come back with the special permit application, or after? And
I'm gonna pretend Nick, and I'm gonna say, why don't we let them come back in first?
Okay. Okay.
Um,
So then-
mostly,
Yeah, then the order will be easy for me to explain to them, and we can do that offline.
okay. Mostly because I'm seeing the changes as being minimally visible from the street. ARC has already made some landscaping modifications. I don't think they're gonna have a lot on this. Because they're making the building very consistent with itself. But I could be wrong.
I like the way you say that.
Patrick, would you have recommended they go first to ARC?
I don't see this as a major redevelopment of
Yeah,
the building. So I think if there are any concerns, commission's input is not going to change the overarching architecture, right? So it would probably be more efficient for them to go both before they come back, or
Okay, then do that. Do the efficient thing. I'm good with that. I don't think it's gonna be much. That's my take. Let's get it out of the way then. I'm
Yeah,
good with that.
if there was any hesitancy, I just wanted to get the commission's
No, because this looks like it's minimally visible from exterior. It's very consistent with what they have in place. It looks like it flows well. Might as well get ARC done. Okay, Mr. Hooper, you got a different answer. Go ahead and go to ARC, and then
Perfect.
you know the rest of the pieces.
Got it.
And Patrick and Tracy will guide you through it.
Patrick will hear from me.
All right. So we'll see you when you come back.
Thank you so much.
All righty. Thank you, sir. Our next discussion item is who's representing Cherry Valley?
believe it's Mr. Brower. Oh, and Mr.
Hello, Mr. Brower.
Hello,
Okay.
good afternoon. It's sun's up and it's the last item. It's happy spring.
Don't jinx us. Now we'll talk about your item for 4 hours and we'll
Oh
hate
my
you.
God. Forget I
No.
said anything.
Yeah. Okay. So 91 Cherry Valley Road in the RA4. This is for a proposed replacement of the existing single-family dwelling with a new one, and it's 150,000 cubic feet in volume or in excess of, and you're before us because of the indoor sports court in excess of 1,200 square feet on a 4-acre property. I personally don't have any comment. Does anybody have any comments on this application? Nope. Does anybody from the public wish to speak about this application? Deja Hickox. All right. If you would just go ahead, please.
Sure. So I actually work for someone whose property is one of the abutting parcels on it. And after looking at the plans when they got posted on Friday, we just had a couple of questions with regard to the grade of that lot being so steep. We're just wondering, I guess, first and foremost, where that water's set to drain. We saw where it comes down. I think it was page 26 or 27, sorry. That it comes down off the leader and it goes through, but there's what's listed as a brook on one of the pages, which is at the edge where the lot meets Highland Farm Road, and that tends to flood a lot. I guess the biggest concern is what's going to be done to address where that water goes, because being downhill hill from that lot. Ultimately, we're just concerned about the amount of water that may show up on their property.
Mr. Brower, do you want to talk about the drainage?
Sure, you can go to the site development plan. I think that'll probably answer all the questions. We can just work from that. So overall, the design and development is based upon reusing the same house site development area, same driveway, same curb cut as was there previously. A driveway and all is still there, and we will have are proposing a drainage plan.
Tracy, I got it open if you need me to.
Can we pull up the site development
Yeah,
plan?
if you've got it, I was just getting, it took a while to load on my machine.
Okay, and then you can blow it up a little bit, please. Okay, so the you can see there's, well, house on the left, and then there's slope down, and then you can see in color the boxes of the drainage system that will be implemented. And then you can see running north-south a stone wall or fence line there. So everything on the eastern portion of the site runs down to a wetland system and a brook on the east side towards Highland Farm. So there's currently no drainage mitigation system on the property today. So this will be a new system, and it will comply with the drainage manual. So all of the leaders, catch basins are going to be picked up and connected to the system there, and that'll infiltrate within the soil. And then there's a discharge level spreader that's kind of below the red boxes that's pointed out there. You can see towards Cherry Valley. So all of the development, the drainage, and the infiltration is going to take place all on the western side. Our activities are staying out of the 100-foot upland review area for wetlands, and they've given us a sign off to do the work without the necessity for a permit, because we are respecting those setbacks. So the short answer is our final application package does have a complete drainage plan as part of it, and I can forward that to you if staff can do that, but I certainly can, if you provide an email, send you the report and the details on that drainage.
Thank you so much. And then we just had two other quick questions. The first being, is there an existing basement now? Like, will there be any blasting or anything like that?
No, there shouldn't have to be any blasting. There is a proposed basement under a portion, but it's on the right side or the eastern side where the site's already been manipulated and developed, from prior development on that site. So we don't anticipate any blasting, no.
Great, thank you. And then the last question that we had were, sorry, I'm just looking through my notes here. Oh, sorry. So on this page, actually, down, we couldn't read what that green markings down at the bottom said, and we were just curious what that was.
Can we blow that up?
Yeah, we tried zooming in, but it was a little hard to see.
The quality.
Oh, that's existing drainage.
Oh,
There's
okay.
catch basins out in the public way there.
So Ms. Hickox, when we get the actual application in, we'll spend more time. We'll have the Department of Public Works will give us their comments on the drainage plans and on the slope manipulation. So at that time, so if you could come back
Sure.
for that meeting, you'll have a more complete information set. Because right now, to us, this is it's before the application. So we're looking at big picture stuff and we're assuming that they have to address the Department of Public Works concerns about the drainage. If you wanna, I don't know if you're a land use person, but one of the things you could do is you can go onto the Town of Greenwich website, and the drainage manual standards, the whole big fat old drainage manual is available online. So you can look at what they set as standards and what they require. As in that water from the development can't go to adjoining properties, etc.
Excellent. Thank you all so much for your time on
Thank
this.
you.
And we
So
will
come back.
Yeah, and if there are questions, the application is online with P&Z, and certainly can reach out to me. I can have our engineer respond if you do have questions.
And email us. You can email Patrick. You can email the P&Z address and just send us any questions or comments you have.
Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you very much, ma'am. So I think that's it. I don't think we had anything, and there doesn't seem to be anybody else in the public who wishes to comment. So we'll see you when you come back with a good drainage plan. Tracy, did you want to say something? No. Okay, so we'll see you when you come back with a drainage plan and maybe one that minimizes grade manipulation.
Got you. Alrighty. So I didn't
All right.
jinx it. Sorry.
Not
Good.
so far.
Sun's in. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you very
afternoon.
much, Mr. Brower.
Bye-bye.
All right, thank you. All right, so now we have two more discussion items. The first one is 100 East Putnam, and then there's another one that has not been revealed yet.
Oh, Madam Chair, we didn't have to talk about it here if you didn't want to, but
Oh, well, when did you want to talk about it?
we talked about it yesterday. I thought that we got
Okay, all
yes.
right. And then you said you had one for tonight then.
I did have I unfortunately have to throw one extra thing in, and bear with me 1 second. I'm just trying to pull up the.
While he's doing that, I hereby move approval of the March 11, 2025 minutes. Mr. Yeski, you were absent. How do the rest of you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Arn? Just say aye.
Aye, sorry, I was muted.
All right, okay,
You
we have
grabbing a
four.
second, or am I going to just pick somebody?
I'm
Second.
sorry, who seconds? Mr. Wells has seconded. I
I'll
have
pick
no
someone.
excuse for being spaced out. Okay, and we had 4 people voting. All right, okay, now, Mr. LaRoe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is related to Building 5 of the Greenwich Office Park.
Mm-hmm.
And the applicant there is, and I don't know why my image is not staying on my page here. They're looking to do minor exterior changes to the exterior of the building, and I just need direction from you all as to how you want to handle this. This is I'll say south facing side. This faces West Putnam Avenue, this side of Building 5. If you go there now, the new driveway into the facility from West Putnam sort of terminates in this area right below. This is the building. They are looking to do a covered entry to this building here with I'm just going to switch to the drawings. With this work right in here. So there's some wing walls that are coming out, obviously changes to the windows on the exterior, and a small entry vestibule that is beyond the facade of the current building. The question is, technically it does minorly increase the volume of the property. It is somewhere in the range of 300 square feet or less. So is the commission's desire to see this revision or let ARC take it on?
ARC.
Okay.
ARC.
ARC.
Do I have a fourth?
ARC.
There you
Yeah.
go. Thank you very much, everybody. I just wanted to confirm that we've already seen the special permit here, so this is a nominal change. Okay. That was all I needed to get your input on.
Okay. I hereby, okay, so, motions. The first one is, as to INCT LLC for a final re-subdivision in which, in the Indian Spring subdivision, lot 1 goes from 2.5260 to 2.8875 acres, which has been taken from lot 8. Lot 8 then goes from 5.5336 acres to 5.1721 acres. Subsequently, lot 8 is merged with 1 Indian Spring, which is 11.1319 acres, and lot 9 which is 5.8386 acres, creating a total for those consolidated lots of 22.1426 acres. Whereas the Conservation Commission has commented that this change in the lot configurations does not impact the open space, and since there is no construction planned. Whereas the consolidation of these lots will not impact lots 1 through 7 of the subdivision, and they can remain under the PA 490 program, as the minimum requirement for that is 25 acres. Whereas the applicant has signed the sewer acknowledgement letter on March 24th, whereas IWWA has issued on 2/24 on February 24th that no permit is required, whereas the ZEO on March, that can't be the right date. I've got the 30th of March, must have been the 30th of January, that says there are no site changes and all the open space remains, that there are no comments. Whereas DPW engineering has found the lot consolidation acceptable, whereas the commission heard the pre-application on November 19th of 2024. Whereas the commission notes that the previously discussed removal of the ice rink is no longer proposed, and that there will be no site plan changes with this change, whereas any other existing conditions that were applied to the subdivisions continue to remain in effect. Therefore, we find that this is neither a subdivision nor a re-subdivision. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Wells has seconded. Mr. Yeski, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Jenkins?
Aye.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Albin is also aye, and with that, the motion passes 5-0. As to the application of Greenwich Country Club, Inc. for a final site plan and special permit to construct 2 new padel courts with associated site improvements on an 148-acre plus property at 19 Dublin Road in the RA1. Whereas the ZEO, I did say both, yep. Whereas the ZEO has advised no comments on March 20th, whereas DPW engineering has okayed for permit on March 20th and notes that peak runoff rate reduction has been planned for the 100-year storm. Whereas IWWA issued permit 2025-0110 and requires and the applicant is required to comply with all the associated conditions. Whereas the Conservation Department has no outstanding comments. Whereas the ARC and the Conservation Commission both requested that the existing, that a tree protection plan be implemented, and that the ARC specified that an arborist be hired particularly to protect the 32-inch oak tree on the property. Whereas the applicant revised plans to further comply with an ARC request to add evergreens along the main driveway, along with the 2 maples the applicant had proposed in order to provide additional screening of the Padel courts. Whereas the applicant has tested the noise at the property line, and it has shown to be at a level of 40.23 dBA at the closest line, and complies with the town of Greenwich noise ordinance, which is 55 during the day and 45 at night. Whereas a full S&E plan will be required for this application. Whereas we note that this property is not in the sewer benefit area. Whereas we further note that these 2 Padel courts will be 20 meters by 10 meters with 3 meters of glass surround and an additional meter of mesh paneling at the ends. I said the health, right? I did, right? Whereas the applicant will continue to comply with all outstanding, with all previous conditions on all other approved site plan and special permit applications for this property. Whereas the applicant will revert to parking use for the siting of the Padel court when it requires the parking for overflow for events. And I think any other outstanding staff and departmental comments? Mary, did I miss something?
Lighting?
Lighting, whereas the applicant shall comply with all the lighting regulations of all the zoning regulations or whatever.
And the timer will be set to.
And the timer will be set. Thank you. I skipped right over that. And the timer will be set to extinguish the lights at 10 p.m. That's the one where we didn't have the lumens?
No, actually, they had a photometric that complied.
They had the photometric. Okay.
Yeah,
So
there's a lighting compliance plan with this application.
All right. Do you have a
Or
second?
lighting compliance table, I should call
Table.
it. Yes.
Do I have a second? Dun, 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 dun. Mary has seconded.
Yeah, I'll second. I was waiting for Arn.
I was waiting for you.
All right. Madam Jenkins, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Yeski?
Aye.
Madam Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Albin is also aye, and with that, the motion passes 5-0. Not to further jinx us, but if this keeps up, we could always start later.
Hey, if
Oh,
this
4
keeps
o'clock?
up, maybe we just meet monthly. I mean, right? What is going on, Pat?
Hey, Patrick,
is it
that's a
like
good
dead?
idea. If you don't
And
have a
the
lot
next one is not this light.
No, we are not bereft of applications. We are
Yeah,
chock
yeah.
full. It's
Just
just
everyone
that-
took a little pause for the end of winter. Don't worry, it's gonna pick back up.
yeah, we'll be
bummer because it was kind of
fine.
nice.
Great.
Don't make plans on your every other Tuesday yet.
Yeah.
Don't make any plans. Okay. Patrick and I are going to be at the Rink Task Force meeting tomorrow. They want to hear about the POCD, and then Pat's going to talk to them about Byram population density, playgrounds, parks, right? Something like that.
Well, hopefully
He's
we'll
going to
have.
kind of wing it as he goes.
Well, not wing it. I won't have the stats, but just some of the basic ideas about how much space we want per person and all that. So,
And
but-
also maybe that the number of multifamilies, because that's something you can get quickly. How many multifamily structures and what percent of the 2-family zoning is in Byram?
Right.
So that gives people an idea of the density in why park area. What we'd like to communicate is that park area is important for residents, green space and recreational, passive recreation, and to balance that. So we'll
Well,
see.
yeah, depending on how you draw the boundary, it's either the first or second most dense area in the town, right? So,
And so Patrick's going to talk about that as the expert. Okay, so it's now exactly 5:50 and y'all can have the night off.
Thank you.
Bye.
Enjoy. Sun's still up.
Thank you. Bye.